Today we will be interviewing Dr. Morillon, an associate finance professor at Elon University. He will be showcasing how he utilizes AI in his personal life and in the classroom.
Welcome everybody to the Elon AI Center. I'm joined with Professor Thibaut Morillon, and I'm Pierson Norris, one of the AI leaders here at the AI Hub. Today I'm going to be asking a few interview questions to Thibaut. First, how frequently do you use AI in your role, and what is the primary purpose?
That's a great question. So how frequently? Now pretty much every day, right? For a wide variety of tasks, right? So I guess the simplest way to use AI would be, of course, if you need to draft an email or whatnot. So coincidentally, it's actually, I use it fairly little for that. I like to have, my own touch. However, for a lot of different things, especially for my role as a researcher, I do use AI a ton for a lot of different tasks. You can use it to audit your code. You can use it to just essentially look at one of your papers, your lit review, whatever the case may be. It's extremely useful to that. So you always want to double check what it does. Of course, that's very key for all the students. You never want to just copy paste any LLM output. That's like the thing. You do not want to do this. It's going to be very visible through to anyone who's somewhat used to it, but it still provides you with a lot of support, and the output is actually usually very, it's very usable, right? It can do a lot of things for you. I also try to use it pretty much every day into the way I teach, so be it through a couple of maybe little apps that I created, and maybe we're going to talk about in the end, or maybe to generate some ideas, or maybe to implement new things in the classroom. So I try to as much as possible, but so to answer your basic question, absolutely every day.
Oh, perfect. and then do you use any AI workflows?
Yeah. Yes, I do, to a degree. So what I've been working on these days is pretty much essentially trying to automatize a lot of the things that I do, right? So for example, from let's say a new data set that is out there, or a new newsletter that gets to you, okay? So extracted information, parse the text, extracted information, do what you need to do with that information, maybe create, I don't know, a new spreadsheet with free cash flow. Since I'm a finance professor, I do a lot of these things, and essentially create something, or have a dashboard, follow some stocks. I'm actually working on that these days, a little app that allows to track a bunch of stocks and to send you essentially via Telegram or email a little update whenever it sees a stock that corresponds to a series of filters that you apply to it, things of that nature. So I'm trying as much as I can to implement that, and it's actually very powerful. So I recommend everybody to try, right, to use it in their own way, and then to get a lot of things running like that. You learn by doing, essentially.
Yeah, and what specific workflow automations are you using?
So N8N, I don't know if you guys see what it is. It's one of these little things that it's pretty cool, because it's going to provide you with a graphical view of how you can automatize several things. So you very often are going to have your little workflow. You can add a trigger. For example, if I receive an email, then I do X or Y or Z. If it works, then I do A, B, C. If it doesn't work, I revert back to a previous step. Hopefully, maybe a lot of you see and understand what I'm talking about when it comes to making all of these flows automatic. It's a very powerful tool. I actually recommend it to everybody. At least, again, try it. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a super advanced project or anything, but just getting your feet wet and trying something out is a good way to learn.
Yeah. If you think ChatGPT and Gemini are good, automated workflows are like that's the next step.
That's the next step for sure.
Perfect. And then for the second question, in your experience, what are the most significant benefits and limitations when utilizing AI for your classroom?
That's a great question. So benefits, there are really a lot, almost like too many to count. I would say the main one is really going to be about coding, at least in my opinion. Maybe that's because of what I do professionally, right? So it's a big chunk of my job, but it's really excellent. Most of the tools, GPT coding is good. Claude is absolutely amazing for everything that is related to coding. If you guys want to try that, I really recommend it. So it makes that chunk of my work that much easier, really by a factor of 10 or 15 or 20, whatever the case might be. It really changes the way you think about it. Now, whenever it comes to the limitations, I would say that AI, pretty much every major LLM is becoming much better at what it does.
Yeah.
Right? It used to be a couple of years ago where you would still see some really egregious mistakes being made. You have fewer and fewer of them with every new model and iterations. That being said, you will still see some hallucinations. That being said, you will still see sometimes kind of inexplicably flawed or incorrect arguments or points. It's not like it's every single query, right? But sometimes it pops, and what's somewhat surprising is that, of course, it always replies with an incredible degree of confidence. That's the treacherous part, right? Every time an LLM tells you something, it sounds like, you know, Einstein is telling you how to solve a given problem, and it's 100% certain about it. And sometimes, you know, it might be a little iffy. But honestly, it is becoming better and better with every single iteration. My recommendation, I pretty much hinted at that early on, it would be to use these tools. They're really, you know, excellent. It can be an amazing tool for support, but always really to turn on your thinking cap, so to speak, right? Take a look at the output, think twice. Don't just copy paste blindly because you're going to make mistakes, and also it's going to be visible. You know, when you're somewhat used to use these LLMs, there are things, there are telltale, like, you know, the big dash or whatnot. Yeah. That's what everybody talks about, because nobody writes like that. It's just only GPT that answers, you know, using these types of characters or whatnot. So there are several ways you can really kind of easily identify if an answer is straight away from an LLM or not, but actually using it for support is really, I mean, I'm personally not against it at all. In fact, quite the opposite. I would recommend every single student to use it in pretty much in that capacity. I think it's great.
Yes, agreed. And actually touching up upon what you were saying, when you do get your output, please check your output to go see if there's hallucinations. There's been so many times where I've asked it to go pull something, and it'll just create something random and then give it to me, and I'm like, what is this? Oh yeah, you know, that's da-da-da-da. I'm like, this is not real. Like, what are you, you know? So please check all your outputs, especially here at Elon University. And additionally, if your teachers do not want you to go use AI, don't use AI.
That's probably the good way to put it. It is especially true, for example, for some of you guys that might be doing some research papers or whatnot, with the literature review, when you're pulling papers from an LLM, it has a tendency to hallucinate some of these, right? It's really interesting. Sometimes it's either completely made up, or it's going to grab an author and just completely mess up the title or whatnot, grab probably two different sources. I'm not entirely sure how these come around, but yes, sometimes they can be pretty comical if you're familiar with what's going on. So yeah, always double check.
Perfect. And then what are some gaps in your AI knowledge that you've identified, and what resources could the AI Hub help provide you to help your workflow be better?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. So as far as the gaps are concerned, I would say my main gap actually would be time. The time to use around and to play with some of them. But I do think what can be cool with the AI Center is that you could imagine having several different projects and students testing several different tools. The truth of the matter is there is a new tool, a new plugin, a new model pretty much every week these days, right? So it's almost impossible virtually to just test them all by yourself. And so I think kind of a good use of our time, or one way the AI Center can really help with this, is having maybe a small group of students test, you know, one plugin or one new model, one new workflow, one new provider, whatever the case may be. Test it extensively for a few days or whatnot, and come up with a report. Yes, I think it's really, that part is better, that part is super neat, or, well, you know, it's not that different from plugin X on GPT or whatnot. That, I think, would actually be very useful and save everybody some time by, you know, just personally, I love to dive into it and try every single new tool. But yes, time is of the essence. We can't all spend, you know, 20 hours a day doing that. So I think that would be a really good use of our time.
Yeah, definitely. And more specifically, when using all the different, like Claude, Gemini, Anthropic, out of all those, which ones would you recommend for your students?
That's a great question. So also a loaded one.
And I know for different use cases,
for different
each one is separately. But if you
don't want to make anybody angry with a pick, I would say honestly that they're all doing a pretty good job. At least a pretty decent job. Is where I would put the bar for all of them. Now I have my personal favorite. So since I'm not backing away from a question, I'm going to answer it straight away. For coding, I would say Claude is, I think, to me right now, really the absolute best. Yeah. What you can actually do with that as a tool is absolutely fantastic. If you guys are somewhat familiar with Claude code and you know, terminal windows and whatnot, if you're somewhat fluent in this and feel like you can use it that way, it's extremely powerful. It really is great. That's probably the best, I think, as far as that aspect is concerned. When it comes to really the pure, let's say, chatbot aspect of it, if that makes sense, I actually think GPT is still pretty good, right? I would say, like, if you need to, I don't know, just ask a question, help me write an email or whatnot. Granted, I don't do that a whole lot because it tends to be very structured. Whenever GPT writes an email for you, you can tell it's GPT. It's extremely formal, right? For the most part, it doesn't really write the way like any normal human being would, right? It's over professional, like I guess in many ways, but still, if you want to have a conversation with it, I do think it's the one at least I think that is the best, right? Provides usually the best balance between being exhaustive and being somewhat concise. Some of these models, I'm sure everybody at home probably has noticed, kind of struggle with that. Some are too concise. Some like will write an entire Bible whenever you write a question. So it's finding the right balance is kind of delicate. You can usually just write an accurate prompt to kind of try to make it a little bit better or deal with that in the settings. But still, overall, I think that it's pretty, as far as the pure chatbot aspect is concerned, I think GPT is still pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
and then I would like to note specifically for any Elon students, if you're not a part of the Love School of Business, you do not get ChatGPT Plus. However, the whole school gets Gemini Pro. So if you do log in with your Elon account, that is the best possible AI that you can use if you're not a part of the Love School of Business.
Gemini Pro, Gemini in general is pretty good. The good part also with Gemini Pro is that if you guys are power Google users, which I'm sure a lot of students are, you're going to have like literally everything lumped onto the Google side of things, so that's pretty convenient as well. Yeah. Honestly, Gemini is pretty good as well. You can't really go wrong. Even Perplexity is pretty good. I mean, honestly, for the most part, I would think that it's not that there is one that I do think is. I don't think there is any major provider that is bad per se. It's more that, let's say, Claude really shines when it comes to coding, right? That's kind of the way I would frame it. Some that have specific utilities that are very. I think Claude Code is really above the others. That's my opinion. So
yeah, and I definitely agree. I've made some apps with Claude Code, and I'm telling you, it's
it's really the thing. It's
very amazing.
To conclude this interview with Dr. Morillon, he emphasizes how AI is used in his personal productivity and inside the classroom. I personally learned that the barrier of entry of coding has been vastly reduced. Please let me know what you learned in the comments, and have a great day from the Elon AI Hub.